The automotive industry has always been a canvas for bold experimentation and ambitious design. While some cars become timeless classics that define entire generations, others become cautionary tales of what happens when good intentions meet poor execution. Here are 10 car designs that didn't stand the test of time. The 1958 Ford Edsel represents one of the most spectacular design failures in automotive history. Ford invested over $400 million in developing what they called the car of the future, but the result was a vehicle that looked like it came from another planet entirely. The most controversial element was the infamous horse-collar grille that dominated the front end, which critics said resembled everything from a toilet seat to more anatomical comparisons. The vertical grille design was meant to be distinctive and futuristic, but it struck consumers as bizarre and unappealing. Despite Ford's massive marketing campaign, the Edsel sold only 110,000 units in its first year against projections of 200,000. The car became a punchline almost overnight, and the name Edsel entered the American lexicon as shorthand for spectacular commercial failure. The AMC Pacer, produced from 1975 to 1980, was designed to be unlike anything else on the road, and unfortunately, it succeeded too well. The car's bulbous, fishbowl-like greenhouse and awkward proportions made it look like a space capsule that had crash-landed in suburbia. The wide stance, while providing interior room, made the car impractical for most garages and parking spaces. Perhaps most bizarrely, the passenger door was actually longer than the driver's door, creating an asymmetrical appearance that added to the car's odd character. While initially generating curiosity, buyers quickly turned away once the novelty wore off. The Pacer's fuel economy was terrible despite its compact classification, and its handling was poor due to the unusual proportions. Though it later gained cult status thanks to movies like Wayne's World, during its production run, the Pacer was widely mocked and considered a symbol of everything wrong with 1970s automotive design. The Chevrolet Corvair, produced from 1960 to 1969, was General Motors' attempt to create an innovative compact car with a rear-mounted, air-cooled engine. While the concept was interesting on paper, the execution proved disastrous. The rear engine design created severe handling problems, particularly dangerous oversteer that could cause the car to flip during emergency maneuvers. The swing axle rear suspension made the vehicle unpredictable, especially when loaded with passengers or cargo. Consumer advocate Ralph Nader made the Corvair the centerpiece of his book, Unsafe at Any Speed, calling it a death trap and bringing national attention to automotive safety issues. The resulting publicity nightmare led to congressional hearings and eventually contributed to the creation of federal auto safety standards. The Corvair nearly destroyed GM's reputation and became a symbol of how innovative engineering means nothing if it compromises basic safety. The 1974 Ford Mustang II represents one of the most controversial redesigns in automotive history. Ford took America's most beloved muscle car and transformed it into what was essentially a glorified Pinto with Mustang badges. The tiny underpowered engines, cheap interior materials, and complete abandonment of the Mustang's performance heritage left enthusiasts feeling betrayed. The styling looked more like a European economy car than an American icon, with none of the aggressive stance or muscular proportions that made the original Mustang special. While the car initially sold well due to the oil crisis and demand for smaller vehicles, automotive journalists and Mustang loyalists considered it a complete betrayal of everything that made the nameplate legendary. Performance was laughable compared to earlier models, and the build quality was poor even by 1970s standards. The Mustang II became the lowest point in the nameplate's history, and it took years for Ford to rebuild the Mustang's credibility with enthusiasts. The Lincoln Continental Mark IV and Mark V, produced throughout the 1970s, featured one of the most ridiculed design elements of the decade, the fake spare tire hump on the trunk lid. Lincoln designers added this bulbous protrusion, supposedly to evoke the elegance of classic luxury cars, but instead, it looked like the car had a tumor or was wearing a backpack. The feature served no functional purpose whatsoever and actually reduced trunk space, making it purely a styling gimmick. Critics ridiculed the phony hump as the epitome of 1970s automotive excess, and it became a symbol of Detroit's obsession with meaningless decoration over substance. Even luxury car buyers found the feature pretentious and silly, with many considering it emblematic of American designers' complete disconnect from genuine elegance. The fake spare tire hump became shorthand for everything wrong with American luxury cars during the malaise era. All flash, no substance, and completely out of touch with what discerning buyers actually wanted. The 1980 to 1985 Cadillac Seville represented Cadillac's misguided attempt to create a, quote, European-style luxury sedan, resulting in one of the most awkward designs in the brand's history. The so-called bustle back featured a severely truncated rear end that looked like someone had chopped off the back of the car with an axe. This abrupt cutoff was supposed to be elegant and continental, but instead appeared unfinished and ungainly. The design completely misunderstood European automotive aesthetics, creating something that looked neither American nor European, but simply confused. Buyers were baffled by the styling, and sales suffered dramatically compared to the previous generation. The automotive press widely criticized the design as an example of American designers completely failing to grasp what made European luxury cars appealing. The bustleback Seville nearly destroyed Cadillac's design reputation and demonstrated that copying foreign styling without understanding the underlying principles leads to disaster. The Chevrolet El Camino, particularly in its later iterations from the 1970s and early 1980s, represented one of the most confused design concepts in automotive history. General Motors couldn't decide whether they were building a car or a truck, so they split the difference and created something that was neither. The El Camino took a passenger car front end and grafted it onto a pickup truck bed, resulting in a vehicle that looked like two different cars had been welded together in a backyard. The proportions were awkward, with the car-like front end appearing too low and delicate for the utilitarian truck bed behind it. Buyers were equally confused. Those who wanted a truck found the El Camino too car-like and lacking in real hauling capability, while car buyers were put off by the ungainly truck bed that made the vehicle look unfinished. The styling suffered from an identity crisis that was impossible to resolve, creating a vehicle that satisfied neither market segment it was trying to serve. While some enthusiasts developed a fondness for the El Camino's unique character, mainstream buyers largely rejected this automotive mullet. Business in the front, party in the back. The Chevrolet Vega, produced from 1971 to 1977, was General Motors' answer to the growing import car threat, but it became one of the most spectacularly failed designs in American automotive history. While the initial styling was clean and European-inspired, the Vega's problems went far beyond aesthetics into fundamental engineering disasters that made the car a rolling advertisement for foreign competitors. The aluminum engine block was supposed to be lightweight and advanced, but it warped constantly, leading to blown head gaskets and complete engine failures, often before 50,000 miles. The body panels were so thin and poorly treated that Vegas began rusting on dealer lots, sometimes developing holes before they were even sold. The rear fender design was particularly susceptible to rust, creating cars that looked like they were dissolving from the outside in. GM's cost-cutting measures resulted in interior plastics that cracked in sunlight and trim pieces that fell off with alarming regularity. The Vega's reputation became so toxic that used car dealers couldn't give them away, and the sight of a smoking, rusted Vega on the roadside became a common symbol of American automotive decline during the 1970s. The 1970 Plymouth Superbird was engineered for one reason: to dominate NASCAR. In order to meet racing homologation rules, Chrysler had to build nearly 2,000 road-legal versions for the public, and what hit showroom floors was one of the most extreme production cars in automotive history. The Superbird's towering rear wing, standing nearly 2 feet tall, combined with the pointed nose cone extension, made it look more like a spaceship than a muscle car. While the aerodynamic features gave it a decisive advantage on the racetrack, they made the car incredibly awkward to live with on public roads. The nose scraped on every driveway and parking lot entrance, and the overall appearance was so outrageous that even muscle car enthusiasts found it too radical. Dealers struggled desperately to move these cars off their lots, with many sitting unsold for months or even years. Some dealerships actually removed the aerodynamic parts and sold the cars as basic road runners just to get rid of them. The styling was simply too extreme for most buyers to accept, testing the absolute limits of what the public would tolerate in automotive design. Though they eventually became collector's items decades later, at the time of their release, the Superbird was considered a rolling joke that took automotive styling to ridiculous extremes. The Ford Pinto, produced from 1971 to 1980, became infamous not just for its bland, uninspiring design, but for one of the most dangerous design flaws in automotive history. Ford's cost-cutting measures placed the fuel tank in a vulnerable position behind the rear axle, where it could easily rupture in rear-end collisions. The result was a car that could literally explode in flames during what should have been minor accidents. Internal Ford documents later revealed that the company knew about the problem, but calculated that paying wrongful death lawsuits would be cheaper than fixing the design. The Pinto's boxy, economy car styling did nothing to help its reputation, making it look as cheap as it was built. The combination of deadly safety flaws and uninspiring design made the Pinto a symbol of corporate irresponsibility and automotive mediocrity. The car became the subject of numerous lawsuits, government investigations, and a criminal trial, forever burning its reputation into American automotive history.